الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for our dear brother Sayyid Abbas Muzaffar Hasnain, who last year passed away, belonged to this community, and it is a year that he has passed away after a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. When we look at the different lessons we learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his Ashura, one of the messages of Karbala for us is to live an honored life, to live a dignified life. We should not present ourselves in a way where we are ridiculed, we are made fun of, for example. And more importantly, in a way that Allah does not want to speak to us, that Allah does not love us, that we are not honored in His eyes. So one of the messages of Karbala, of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, is to live a life of honor and dignity. And I really think that when you look at the life of the true Shia, and the one who has truly learned from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you see that the true Shia really has honor, has dignity, especially in this day and age, when it comes to being a Shia and follower of Ahlul Bayt, and you see how much the followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam said no to oppression. And when it comes to helping the oppressed, they give whatever they can. So therefore we see that Allah has placed in the followers of Imam Hussein izzah, has placed in them might, has placed in them honor. And this is actually something, when you recite the ziyarat of Imam Hussein, Ziyarat Ashura, you learn that this is something that we ask for. فَأَسْأَلُ اللَّهِ الَّذِي أَكْرَمَ مَقَامَكَ, for example. I asked Allah who has honored you, Imam Hussein, first, who is the most honored person that we know. Many of us wish we were in Arba'in right now. I'm sure we have many people from this community, and I know from Southern California, that are walking about 40, 50 miles in about 110-degree weather. Why? Because of the love of Imam Hussein. This year they're saying 25 million people are expected. It is a great number, 25 million people. And you see how Allah has honored Imam Hussein alayhi salam, has placed the love of Imam Hussein in the hearts. When someone of our family members, friends passes away, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, it becomes normal. But we see that the love of Imam Hussein is a fire that never becomes extinguished, never fades. It actually every year is becoming more intense. So Allah has placed honor and dignity to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, has elevated him through his martyrdom in Karbala. Then the ziyarat says this, وَأَكْرَمَنِي بِكْ. Now Allah has also honored me, but through you, Imam Hussein. Through you, I also have honor. If we have a little bit of honor ourselves, when you look at, it is due to Imam Hussein, being connected to him, learning from him, and taking the traits, Husseini traits, and bringing it part of ourselves, making it part of us. Or in another part it says, so that was the root word akramani, from kirama, to be honored, for example. Then we have another way that Quran uses, or Ziyad Ashura also Quran uses, I believe, wajih, for example. Wajih, comes from wajh, to have a face, to be, illustrious in the eyes of Allah, to be dignified, to be honored. Allahumma ja'alni indaka wajihan. Allah, allow me to be in your sight, in your eyes, to be an honorable person. Then it says, Bil Hussein alayhi salam, through Hussein. Give me wajaha. Allow me to be waji through Imam Hussein alayhi salam fi dunya wal akhir. In the dunya, I want to be waji. And in the akhirah, don't make this mistake. Say sometimes we think we should be so humble, so sincere. I should make fun of myself. I should disgrace myself. I should, present myself in a lowly manner. This is not allowed. Because it says in the dunya and the akhirah. True, I shouldn't be trying to sell my religion, my integrity for the likes of people. That's true. But also, I'm not allowed to dishonor myself. There's three things. It's one of the top things that a believer has to preserve: their life, their honor, and their property. These are things that we have to protect. You can't come here and make yourself a fool out of yourself, for example, because the Muslim should be honored. Then we look at the very important saying of Imam Hussein alayhi salam that I'm sure many of you, at least the last part, have it memorized. In the day of Ashura, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was presented with two choices, Ala wa anna ad-da'i ibn ad-da'i qad rakaza bayna ithnatayn. This haram, Zada, the one who was born from haram, has told me to choose between two things. Bayna as-silla wa dhilla. Silla means the sword. Either I choose the sword, or I choose to be dhalil, I choose to be weak, I choose to be dishonored. I have to submit to the likes of Ibn Ziyad and Ibn Umar, for example, Umar ibn Sa'd and Yazid and the likes of them. This is wahayhat min nadhillah. And as for us, we are far from humiliation. Far from us is humiliation. I cannot humiliate myself. I cannot be dhalil. So would you agree with me that one of the important lessons of Ashura, first, we cannot just limit our majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to just crying for Imam Hussein and saying, very good Muharram, I wore black, I cried, that's it. The tears are supposed to take you somewhere. One of the places that you're supposed to be taken is a life that you're honored, a life of dignity. You cannot be disgraced anymore when you're truly Husseini. This is what we see, I think, in a very important age that we are living in. We see this present itself, that those who've learned from the lessons of Imam Hussein learn that you have to have honor. You cannot just submit to the oppressor. You cannot submit to just force someone who wants to take things away from you. You have to fight back. These are one of the messages of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam mentions, says, Al-mu'min yakunu azizan wa la yakunu dhalilan. The believer has to be honorable, cannot be weak, cannot be humiliated. Or we see in other, la yambaghi, in tradition, la yambaghi lil-mu'min an yadhilla nafsa. The believer is not allowed to humiliate himself, humble himself, and disgrace himself. When we see these words in the Quran, we see, for example, karama being used in different ways. For example, sometimes we call the Quran Kareem. The Quran itself introduces itself as being Kareem. Innahu la Quranun Kareem, meaning it is a noble Quran, nobility. It is a noble Quran. Or we have, for example, in the Quran, وَمَنْ يُهِنِ اللَّهِ فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ مُكْرِمٍ. And whoever Allah humiliates, then there is for him no one to bestow upon him honor. If Allah wants to bring someone down, how many tyrants, how many different people oppressed throughout history, where are they now, for example? And how many of them had a tragic death, had a tragic end to their kingdom and their government, for example? Whoever Allah wants to bring down, nobody can bring them up anymore. And whoever Allah wants to bring and give karama, nobody can stop. The Quran also uses this, and I'll say a story in Surah Yasin about Habib and Najjar. I'll say this story and get into, at the end, how to live an honorable life. Habib and Najjar, in this story, according to the Mufassirin, is about Antakya, an area in modern-day Turkey, where I'm sure many of you, how many here have recited Surah Yasin? The previous generations used to do this so much they used to even memorize it. Surah Yasin is the heart of the Quran. It's a very important surah. Here, the Quran mentions about a person, and very beautiful, Quran doesn't say who he is, doesn't give the name. A lot of times you figure it makes sense because if you're always trying to think about the name and the person, you kind of forget about the story sometimes. So Quran doesn't want to confuse us because it's clear, it's very easy to understand. If I had all these names and places, well, I live in America, for example, 1400 years later, I would really need another book of reference to understand Quran. But you see, the Holy Quran, anyone picks it up, they learn. It speaks to them. And it says here, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَ رَجُلٌ. It says man, a person who is Habib al-Najjar. يَسْأَ قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اتَّبِعُوا الْمُرْسَلِينَ. He was running, it says, people, follow the apostles, follow the messengers. Who were these? One of the Mufassirin says these were people sent from Prophet Isa alayhi salam, that Jesus sent messengers to spread the name, to spread the religion of Allah. Therefore, they sent two, and then we made them more mighty with three. But these people, the city, took these three and executed them, killed them, the messengers of Prophet Jesus alayhi salam. But Habib al-Najjar was different. He loved these three people. He respected them. Some say that these were representatives of Jesus alayhi salam, and they cured his own son. So he saw the miracles, this Habib. He saw the miracles of Jesus alayhi salam. So therefore, what happens is that he comes to his people and says, اتَّبِعُوا مَنْ لَا يَسْأَلُكُمْ أَجْرًا وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. He says, follow them. He comes as one person against the entire city. This is the person who has honor. One against, say, thousands of people. Follow these prophets. Follow these messengers. وَمَا لِي أَلَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. Why do you not worship Allah, who has created you, has created me, and to whom you will be returned? Why don't you worship Allah? And he continues giving mu'adha and advice to the people of this Habib al-Najjar. And from what I understand, this is after these three have already been killed. Then, after continuing to speak so much, they said, قِيلَ أُدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ. They said to Habib, why don't you love Allah so much, go to Allah. We'll do you a favor, for example, we'll kill you, we'll send you to heaven. And then in a very beautiful Quran doesn't say all this, all the violence and all those actions are not in here. It just says, قِيلَ أُدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ. You should understand here that he's dead, they killed him. Then he says from barzakh, from the grave, now he's dead. قَالَ يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِ يَعْلَمُونَ. Now he's speaking to his people. Now he's killed. He was a shaheed. He says, I wish my people knew. And this is verse 26. In Surah Yasin, your homework is to go and open up this surah and see what Sayyid, which verses he was talking about, so you can be acquainted. And when you read these verses, remember me that somebody mentioned that this is for Habiba Najjar, that he was shaheed for these three messengers of Prophet Isa alayhi salam, according to one of the Mufassirin. He says, I wish my people would know the status. He has a good life now. بِمَا غَفَرَ لِي رَبِّي. The fact that Allah has forgiven me. One of the most important things God can give me is forgiveness. Imagine, everybody makes mistakes. Everyone has shortcomings. Allah removes all of those mistakes. He has forgiven me. وَجَعَلَنِي مِنَ الْمُكْرَمِينَ. He has made me of the honored. So one of the mukrameen and those who are honored in Quran is one individual who stood up for the truth, even if it cost him his life. And Allah has given him honor. So therefore we see that this is a very important status that we should have. I should be an honored one. Have you ever seen in community with your friends, for example, some are a little bit more honored than the other? For example, you respect them a little bit more. When they speak about him, they speak highly. Don't you like to become like that? That when they speak about you, or maybe after I leave this world, eventually I have to leave this world and I die, they say this person was a good person, who's an honored person. But the opposite, a person who is disgraced, a person that people don't even like talking about, a person whose reputation is ruined. Again, we don't try to seek popularity amongst people, even though this day and age everyone is trying to get more followers, for example, or having them smash the like button, for example, on their videos. But regardless, what is important is we are aziz in the eyes of Allah. When a person is aziz and honored in the eyes of Allah, The true people, the believers, will also love him. We'll talk about these narrations. We'll talk about what to do to be more honored. Because we have about 10 minutes, 13 more minutes. Allah has a lot of mercy upon you and is changing Maghrib to make it shorter and shorter. Therefore, we'll get to the end of tonight's speech, which is this. We said Imam Hussein alayhi salam is honored. How is he honored? With shahadat. He's honored how? That under the prayer under where his grave is answered. How is he honored? By the 9 imams coming from his children, his progeny. He's honored because the zawar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam also become honored. Crying for Imam Hussein is forgiveness of sins. Allah has honored our Mawla, our master Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and has honored us through Imam Hussein as long as we become like him. Now, how can I be an honorable person? The first way, the first step that tonight I want to talk about is this verse. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who believe. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and they act and do good. سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمْ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا, Allah places for them wood, love. People generally love them. The person who has taqwa, the person that is a trustworthy person, the person that has red lights, red stops in those, areas where you're supposed to stop, the hududullah, the limits of Allah, he respects it. That person is one who tarbiyat has been done to him. He has worked on himself. He's not like a vicious wolf or the nafs and his desires. He does whatever he wants. It is how Imam Ali alayhi salam mentions as a trained horse. Wherever he wants to move and go and jump, a trained horseman. He can take that horse and take it. But if, God forbid, I do not work on myself, if I eat whatever I want to eat, see whatever I want to see, hear whatever I want to hear, I have no limits for myself, no boundaries, then I will be like that unruly horse that I will do whatever, my nafs and desires want. A very dangerous person. I will become a wolf. I'll become a dangerous personality. And this is one verse that's saying Allah places wood. And yourselves, when it comes to, for example, traveling, would you want to travel with your family? Let's say somebody's driving you, someone who cannot control his eyes and always wants to look, for example, at your family, for example, or would you have more respect for that person whose eyes are down, for example? Do you have more respect for that person that doesn't backbite and says, hey, let's not talk about this person? For example, let's not talk behind Sayyid's back, for example. Let's give a break tonight, for example. Do you like that person more? Or that one that's always talking about this person, that person, then that day you're not there, they're talking about you as well. Logic tells you that, well, I'm not here, he's going to speak about me. So that one who controls eyes, one who controls the tongue, the one who controls their body, their limbs, which is the status of taqwa, that person is honored by the people. You love that person. You want to familiarize with that person. You want to invite that person. But that one who didn't work on themselves and they have jealousy, for example, they come to your house looking, oh, did you buy? Did you rent? How much did you buy? How much did you rent? For example, these things, how much is this rug worth? How many, for example, kids do you have? All this. Then at the end they leave and something breaks in the house. Why? Because they had that evil eye, for example. They have family members like this. They know. They come, for example, and right when they come to the house, they leave, like the balcony will crash or something like that, because they can't stand somebody excelling, because they haven't worked on themselves. They can't stand somebody else, prospering. The other narration I want to bring from the Prophet, ما أقبل عبد إلا الله إلا أقبل الله بقلوب المؤمنين. So whenever a person faces Allah, aqbal or does iqbal, when a person faces Allah, Rasulullah says, Allah has those believers face him. Believers face him. They love him. Naturally, you say he's a good person? Yes. Man arada an yakuna a'azza an-nas, whoever wants to be the most honored of people, falyattaqillah, the narration says, have taqwa. You'll be of the honored person. Let's go and look at a life that is without taqwa. Today, the youth, those that are not religious, what are they struggling with? Addiction. They're addicted to different things. Sometimes they're addicted to substances. if they're high, for example, and people look at them, would you ever, for example, trust someone who's, a drug addict, for example, someone who's always taking drugs, their car smells, for example, all the time? You're thinking, for example, they have a pet skunk, but they don't have a pet skunk. Their car always stinks, for example. Such a person, would you want to hang out and trust, for example? They're always high. So you see, Allah has given you honor by taking away those things that remove honor from you. Or when that person is drunk, when that person is consuming intoxication, doesn't know what they're saying, doesn't know how they're behaving, would you honor such a person who's always drunk, for example? He doesn't know what he's saying, doesn't know what he's doing. So already Allah limits all those things that take us away from a life of respect. But that person that doesn't smoke, for example, that person that doesn't drink, that person that isn't addicted to video games, for example, that's another case. Someone addicted to phone or video game, they lose honor in the eyes of people because they're always playing games. What are you doing? Playing games. Okay, you can have a limit for yourself and have an enjoyment, have a hobby. But if you're addicted to one thing, whatever it is, you do excessively, then you lose that honor. But Allah teaches us taqwa so we can be balanced. The second thing that we can do, we have about 7 minutes left, is to be humble. It's actually opposite. A lot of times in society, I think that the more I brag about myself, the more I talk about myself, the more people will like me. Actually, it's not like this. That humble one is the one that people like. The tradition from the Prophet. Inna tawadu yazidu sahibahu raf'a fatawada'u yarfa'ukumullah. When you are humble, Allah does tarfi. Allah exalts you, raises you up. It's the opposite. When you're truly humble, Allah elevates you. And then when you are humble, Allah raises you in rank. There's one of the scholars who was a very great scholar who, when we talk about him, Ayatollah Muhammad Taqi Khansari, he was a mujahid. He fought against the British when the British were invading Iraq. Imagine a mujtahid, a scholar, someone who can give a fatwa, was fighting in the battlefield, for example. And he's actually captured. And he was captured, and some of the stories, it says they came to him because he knew different languages. They came and they put, for example, a very harmful animal to scare him. To scare him, to say either translate or this animal will attack you. And he looked, and some of the shuyukh with the Ayatollah looked with his Ayatollah look at the animal. The animal, they said, ran away. He had so much, attraction, so much power in his, demeanor. They say that they came to him. He was the scholar who the likes of Allama Tabatabai, Imam Khomeini, would pray behind in Qom. There was a jama'at that many of the scholars, he was the leader of Salat in Qom. They said, why don't you pray for rain? It's a drought. Imagine like a hot day like today. There's no water for a long time. They're saying, why don't you do this special prayer that both Shia and Sunni have? It's a prayer that we're allowed to do in congregation, in jama'at. It's mustahab, but we're allowed to do in congregation, the prayer for rain. He does it, he accepts. He starts this prayer, and they say, from what is recorded, a flood occurs in the holy city of Qom after his prayer. It begins to flood. It rains so much that our teacher used to say in Qom, there's this little area right now, maybe you park your cars, those who have visited, say, the Ma'suma's shrine, they park the cars because there's no water anymore as much. But that little parking lot, that little dried river, became so full, they said they saw a deer like floating down it after this prayer he did. They came to him, it's written in the books, they came to him, non-Muslims came at that time, they were there. They said, pray for world peace. It's about 70 years ago. Pray for world peace, 80 years ago. And then they asked him, what did you do that your prayer was affected the world so much? He said, I actually went there with this thought. I'm sure this is private talk that he said. He said that for a while I thought to myself, my nafs is bothering me, my ego is bothering me. When you're a very prominent scholar, a lot of times the nafs can affect you. So says, I want to go. They said, come and do this prayer for rain. I want to go there, and I want it to not be answered. I'm just a normal person. He thought himself as a normal person. I'm going to go there, and it's not going to be answered. And everyone is going to see, look, for example, Muhammad Taqi Khansari is just a normal person. He's just like us. There's nothing special about him. But yet he went and he prayed this with this intention to bring himself down, for example, so that he's a normal person. You don't need to give so much respect to me. But then whoever we said is humble, Allah elevates in rank and answered his prayers. Allah likes this type of worship, that is, a person is humble, not the arrogant worship. The third thing that I'd like to say before we end tonight, being a responsible person, whatever age, you might be young, but some of you maybe are 8, 9, 10, you have other siblings, young siblings. The more you're responsible, the more you help out in the home with chores, the more your parents will give you honor. Many of you say, I want to talk, nobody listens to me. Well, do things. Be more responsible at home, and your parents will listen. The community will listen. We'll give you more opportunities here in masjid, for example, when you're responsible. 3, whatever job you do, be the best at it. Be good at it. Whatever profession you have, the wells that Imam Ali alayhi salam built, they say they still exist because he built it with top quality. The 4th is also how you present yourself. It's good to be goofy sometimes. It's good to be silly. It's good to joke around. But never when I speak. That's the worst time, for example, to do this. Not to be silly when I speak, or in other circumstances, with joking with people that are much older than you, or joking all the time, or being foolish. How do I present myself? There are times for jokes, and a lot of the scholars, they joke. There's no problem with that, but they joke at the right time. They aren't silly all the time, for example. They're not joking all the time. So these are a few things. 1, when I have belief in good action, Quran says, Allah places wudda, Allah places love. People will love me, respect me. 2, humility. Whoever is humble, Allah will raise him in rank. 3, responsible. 4, whoever has a career, whatever it is, at home, whatever your job is, do it well. And the last is, how do I carry myself? I should carry myself in a prestigious and honorable way, inshallah. We'll dim the lights and talk about one of the children of Imam Hussein alayhi salam that has a very unfortunate martyrdom and shahadat and passing away. We can dim the lights. And that is Lady Sayyida Ruqayya Salamullah alayha. We ask Allah before we start this Rawza, remember Muharram, Safar, the months that we try to complete our azadari for Imam Hussein alayhi salam for 40 days. At this time, Lady Ruqayya, maybe many of you are fathers or your brothers, and you know how sweet these little 3, 4-year-old girls are, how much they love their father, how connected they are to him. How did Lady Ruqayya, this child, leave Imam Hussein? How is somebody going to explain to her that your father has been killed in this manner? She is crying very heavily. It is in the dungeons of Sham. You know, the problem when we talk about the dhulm that happens to children is today we see thousands of children being starved and killed in Gaza. It truly breaks our heart. One is because children are innocent. No matter where they're from, no matter what they're children, they're innocent. 2, children cannot defend against themselves. When somebody pushes Sayyidah Ruqayya, she cannot do anything in return. When somebody slaps her, she cannot do something in return. 3, children are fragile. They're very susceptible to harm. They say when the Shami officer comes and smacks her and hits her, that one hit of Sayyidah Ruqayya, they say a normal person will be bruised in one cheek. But her face is so small and their hands are so large that when they hit both sides of her face. So finally, in the dungeons of Sham, she keeps crying day and night and saying that I want my father, as some of the Maqatil say. These evil people, they say, oh, you want your father? I will give you your father. And instead, they bring the bloodied, the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The head that is injured, in the forehead with a huge rock. The head that is covered with blood. The head that has veins. This tiny 3, 4-year-old, some record a conversation between her and the Muqaddas head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, crying, saying, Ya Abata, my father, من الذي خضبك بدمائك. My father, this is not how you look like before Ashura. You did not look like this. Who has stained you with your blood? Ya Abata, man alladhi qata'a waridak. My father, who has severed your veins? And she is holding the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Ya Abata, man alladhi aytamani ala sighar sinni. My father, who has made me an orphan at such a young age. I am 3 and 4 and I have to be raised without a father. Ya Abata, man baqiya, man baqa ba'dak. Narju, who can we have hope in after you? Ya Abata, man lil yatima hatta takbur. Who will care for the orphan girl until she grows up? I want you to take yourselves to Sham. Imagine this 3, 4-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, what did you go through? What did your family go through after you that your daughter, 3, 4 years old, is holding your holy head, saying such words, crying, holding the head of Imam Hussein tight, until finally she cannot bear it anymore. She just cannot bear the distress of the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and her holy body leaves, her holy spirit leaves her body. And she becomes one of the great symbols of oppression of Imam Hussein in Sham, the capital of the Umayyads. Inna lillah, inna ilayhi raji'un, ya Allah. We mentioned 3, 4-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We mentioned Ruqayya. Some say Sakina, Sukaina. Some say her name was Fatima. We mention her, ya Allah. Remove affliction from the oppressed of Gaza, inshallah, right now. Allow them to have food, water, drink. Remove starvation from them. Remove oppression from them. Ya Allah, give honor and nobility to the believers, inshallah. Disgrace the enemies of Allah, inshallah. Give them dhillah. Ya Allah, allow us to be of the zawar of Imam Hussein. Allow us to be of those who learn from the lessons of Karbala. Give us honor and dignity, inshallah. Give honor and dignity to our children and our children's children, inshallah. May their reputation never be ruined, inshallah. Ya Allah, bless the souls of our departed. Give shafa to all those who are sick. And expedite the return of the Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. We have around 20 minutes to have the refreshment done, so please, we don't want to delay the salat time. We have 20 minutes from now, so please go ahead and enjoy the pizza, but please, yeah, 10 minutes a slice. Assalamu alaikum.